Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Avisha Sadaginajad, and I am the Marketing Program Chair and Professor here at the University of Arizona Global Campus. I am the host of this session, Encouraging Team Learning and Engagement with Adjunct Faculty. By joining us today, you acknowledge that this session is being recorded and will be shared with TLC-related material. Microphones will be muted for this presentation, but we encourage you to post questions and comments in the chat. Also, we have enabled live transcription. If you would like to use it, click the Show Caption button at the bottom of your Zoom window. So now I'm pleased to introduce you to Dr. William Woods, Master of Organizational Management Faculty and Faculty Council Emeritus, as the facilitator of this amazing panel. Dr. Woods, floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Sadaginajad. Everybody, welcome to our presentation on encouraging team learning and engagement with adjunct faculty. I'm going to introduce our panelists to you, and our panelists will then have some brief comments to share with you. Our panelists in this order are Dr. Breon Haskett, Dr. Yolanda Harper, Professor Brandy Havens, and Dr. Stephanie Held Fisher. She is not with us today, but she normally was going to be part of this presentation. However, Dr. Haskett is going to fill in for her on her parts.
Well, good morning, good afternoon. Oh, are we ready? Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
So once again, I'd like to welcome all of you, and I'm going to also talk to our panelists. Okay, panelists, please share a brief introduction and overview of who your part-time faculty are and what faculty engagement means to you. So let's start that off with Dr. Haskett.
Okay, well, hello and good morning to everyone who's joined us. My name is Dr. Breon Haskett. I'm the lead faculty and assistant professor of the Master of Arts and Bachelor of Arts in the Organizational Management department. Our part-time faculty are a mix of experienced practitioners and educators. They bring a great wealth of expertise and experience, both in the on-ground and online classrooms. They're passionate about helping our adult learners. They're well steeped in andragogy, and while they're also practicing their own professional commitments. For me, faculty engagement is all about cultivating that sense of belonging and purpose, ensuring that our adjunct faculty feel supported, informed, and valued. And that's where we hang our hat. That's how we get them engaged and moving forward.
So I got to ask someone for a special favor. Dr. Fry, could you please turn your camera off?
I'm not that ugly.
Well, anyway, so now we will move on to Dr. Yolanda Harper with the same question.
Hi, I'm Yolanda Harper, Professor and Program Chair of the Bachelor's in Applied Behavioral Science. I've been full-time here since January 2013, and I primarily work with adjunct faculty teaching courses in my program. Some of them have been with UAGC for over a decade. Most of them have full-time jobs in careers relevant to the courses they teach, bringing not only a passion for teaching, but a wealth of real-world experience to their courses. To me, faculty engagement is rooted in upholding the inherent value and dignity of every community member as esteemed, cherished, and respected. So my foundation of engagement is caring, and I view engagement as all of those actions and behaviors that are intended to facilitate and support faculty professional development, growth, and for those who so desire, a sense of community and belonging. Too frequently, we hear questions such as, well, how can we increase faculty engagement? Which assumes that we have evidence that they're not engaged or that they're under-engaged. Certainly, some aspects of engagement are easily observable, such as attending meetings, serving on committees, responding to emails, volunteering, mentoring students. However, engagement also includes cognitive and emotional aspects that are not always directly observable. Much engagement happens in faculty emails, Canvas messages, texts, Zoom calls that we just may have no knowledge of. and many faculty who may not attend meetings are highly engaged with our students in our university. So for them, engagement includes honoring the many ways they contribute to student success and to an overall collegial environment inside and outside of the online classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Harper. Boy, that's two great answers that we've had to get this presentation started off with our panelists. So, Professor Havens, why don't we move on to you with the same question?
Yes, well,
Share a brief introduction and overview of who your part-time faculty are and what faculty engagement means to you.
thank you, Dr. Woods. And I certainly echo the sentiments of Dr. Haskett and Dr. Harper, and I'll try not to repeat too much. I'm Brandy Havens. I'm the program chair for our bachelor's and master's degrees in accounting here at UAGC. And in our program, we have about 60 adjunct faculty members who teach the bulk of our courses. Most of them are full-time practitioners. They only teach on a part-time basis. In terms of what faculty engagement means to me, I think for me, it always goes back to the students. If our faculty are actively engaged with our students and they're providing meaningful guidance and support to our students, then they're engaged. And that's always my goal.
Fantastic. Everybody, I want you to know that as you are interacting with our full-time faculty here today, that as full-time faculty, it is also our job to be actively engaged with our other faculty, especially our associate faculty, in supporting their endeavors to support our students here at the University of Arizona Global Campus. So, on to the next phase. What I'm going to do now, Dr. Haskett, did you have any comments from
Any additional
Dr.
comments on
Stephanie
the question?
Hill-Fisher?
No, Dr. Stephanie Hill-Fisher is our program chair, and I'll be speaking on her behalf relative to our program and how we approach faculty engagement. And so it looks like me, but I'll be using her voice, not her voice, but I'll be using what she would want me to say during this presentation. And so I'll be engaging it from that vantage point.
Thank you very much. So what we're going to do now is move into some poll questions. And our first poll question is, what types of support do you believe are most beneficial for part-time faculty? The answers include clarifying course expectations or grading standards, help with challenging student situations, pedagogical feedback and best practices, technical or platform-related guidance, or if you have something else, you can also specify that. So let's go with that poll. Okay, so the response that's came up with the highest response rate was pedagogical feedback and best practices. And then the second two, which were the only two that we responded to, were clarifying course expectations or grading standards and help with challenging student situations. In this next portion, we're going to get into panel questions now, followed by another poll question. So our first panel question, how do you, panelists, involve part-time faculty in setting up engagement and learning?
Wow. So terrific question. I would say that first, understanding that faculty engagement is not something that should happen to our associate faculty, but they should be engaged and active contributors into the opportunities for those engagements, and in fact, shape the way that those engagement opportunities occur. For us in the organizational management section, we have synchronous meetings, which we call faculty contact sessions. They're scheduled, but they're based on faculty input regarding the most accessible times for them. These sessions, they serve as kind of an open forum where adjunct faculty can discuss instructional challenges, share effective strategies, and also receive full-time help. But we also have, in addition to that, what's called our Faculty Resource Center. And this is embedded directly within our LMS system. it looks and kind of functions just like a course would, but consider it a faculty lounge, if you will. It's a synchronous way where they can engage, or asynchronous way where they can engage with the information that we would like them to have to move their competencies and instructional quality forward. It's a really cool feature, and faculty actually helped us identify what resources should be embedded there. And we have things in there like course-specific instructional guidance, institutional updates, student support strategies. We also encourage ongoing engagement through what we like to do in terms of one-on-one coaching. And we get those coaching cues from a process that we have here at UAGC known as individual quality reviews, or IQRs, where we assess the quality of our faculty. And from that, we enter into a coaching and mentoring process with our faculty. And even in that, we receive feedback that helps us to refine the way that we engage with our faculty. Ultimately, our goal is to create a sense of community and partnership, which is very difficult with a very busy adjunct faculty cohort. But we want to make sure that they feel that their input is actively shaping the professional learning environment and how we are responding to their needs and how they're responding to the students. And so that reciprocal action is in there. But ultimately, it's all about making a commitment to our associate faculty that we want to hear what's best and what's needed. And then once we know that, we go through this iterative process of trying to figure out when's the best time and the best approach to get that information to them.
It's great how our learning management system hooks the faculty up so that we can be able to communicate with one another and interact with one another. That makes our job a lot easier. So, Dr. Harper, why don't we hear from you now?
Brandy, you mean?
Brandy, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, guys.
Professor
I'll be glad
Brandy
to jump in.
Havens.
Thank you.
Professor Havens.
Thank you.
Professor Havens, yes.
Dr. Haskett made some phenomenal points here. So I'll just try to build on that a little bit. Our teaching model and structure here at UAGC is, as we noted, relies heavily on our adjunct faculty. And so I think it's even more important that, that we go the extra mile to make sure that our faculty have the support they need. We know from both, studies and our own experience that, in most cases, faculty engagement correlates directly with student engagement and retention. And so, well-supported instructors are going to be far more likely to deliver consistent and high-quality learning experiences to our students. So I try to kind of keep that idea of support at the center of my communications with part-time faculty. Anytime I reach out, I try to always convey an attitude of both respect and gratitude, even when I'm asking them to do something. Sometimes it's training that has to be completed, or maybe, a change in teaching requirements, or an event or resource that we're asking them to share with students, whatever it is. I try to take special care to ensure that somewhere in that message, I let them know that they're appreciated. I see them and I appreciate the work that they do for our students every day. Along those same lines, I try to let faculty know that I have an open door policy. I encourage them to reach out to me anytime, email, phone, Zoom, text, whatever method they want. I'm here to support them. And I try to listen to faculty if they express concerns, even if it's something that I may not be able to address, maybe it's an institutional level policy or something like that. I still want them to know that they've been heard and I understand, their concerns. One of the other things that I've been doing for several years now is providing adjunct faculty with a quarterly newsletter. In that, I have some sections that are pretty standard for every quarter. I always include something I call a course development pipeline. I just let them know what courses are up for revision in the next few months, what's going to change, when those revisions are going to go live. This just kind of gives them a bit of a heads up that, hey, if you get scheduled for this class, in the next few months, you might want to check it out, might have changed since the last time you've taught it. And I think that's important. Instructors have limited time to prepare for the course. So I think anything that we can tell them, ahead of time, should be helpful as they're planning and managing their time. Another section that I try to include is content that they can share in their courses. I might provide links to articles or current events that might make for interesting discussion. Again, their time's limited. They may not always have time to do new research for every course, that they're assigned. So, if I can hand them something that is ready to go and ready to share, then my hope is that it's not only a time saver for them, but hopefully it can, spark some good conversations and increase engagement, in the course. So that's some of the standard stuff that I include. And then, there's other content that's going to be unique based on what's going on at the university. I try to keep them, current in terms of what's going on. We sometimes have change around here. And so I want them to feel like they're well informed, whether it's new policies, new procedures, new organizational structure. We always emphasize the culture of care. In the last year or so, we've put a lot of emphasis on what we call RSI, or regular and substantive interaction. So I've provided a lot of guidance related to that. I've done some sections on, navigating APL, which for any non-UAGC attendees, that is what we call our faculty portal. And sometimes, that can be challenging. Most of us full-timers, we're pretty used to navigating it. But if you're not in there all the time, it can be difficult to know. Where do I go to find my instructional quality review? Where do I find those results, my evaluation? Where do I find my contracts? That sort of thing. And so, I think anything that we can provide our faculty that's going to be really relevant and useful to them, that's always my focus.
Yep.
Well, those answers are so vitally important to the success of our associate faculty and our university, because you have to think about our associate faculty may be spread out amongst all the 50 states. Absolutely. Some of them may not even live in a city, so they may be alone on a farm or, in some remote area, and being able to serve our students and being able to serve the university. And so being able to have that interaction between our professors and those associate faculty, adjunct faculty, is so important in establishing and maintaining our culture here so that we all feel a part of it. So as we move into our next question, focusing on communication strategies, let's pause for a few seconds for another quick poll. The poll this time is: what forms of communication do you believe are most helpful? Schedule check-ins and coaching, quick feedback on teaching performance, group meetings or discussion boards, email updates and announcements, or if you have something else, you can include that in on your responses. Go ahead and begin with the poll. All right. So we have with 30% email updates and announcements, and we never want the emails to get lost. And we also have, and that's at 30%, 20% are group meetings or discussion boards. And at another 30%, we have quick feedback on teaching performance. And then lastly, at 60%, scheduled check-ins or coaching. So that's very, very interesting. So I'm going to move on to our next question, and that's for our panelists. What strategies have you seen work well to support the well-being and work-life balance of part-time faculty, especially those juggling multiple teaching commitments across institutions? So we'll start out with Brandy with that, and then followed up by Yolanda.
Thank you, Dr. Woods. I think this is such an important question because it describes so many of our adjunct faculty members. Most are employed, full-time in the corporate world or private practice. And on top of that, they often teach courses here and there for a variety of institutions. That's a lot to juggle. And I think it can feel like a lot to keep up with, especially when things change, whether it's systems, procedures, or, even teaching expectations. So I think as, program or faculty leaders, one of the most important ways that we can support our adjunct faculty is ensuring that we are providing them with the guidance and information they need to be successful without overwhelming them, with too much information and content. I don't ever want my faculty, to see my name and start ignoring it because I send them so many emails that they start to think, oh, it might not be important, and so I try to be fairly strategic and mindful about my communications. And I think by doing so, we're acknowledging their reality and their experiences and creating a culture where they feel more valued and included because we're showing that we respect and appreciate, their time. So another thing that I try to do is take advantage of that vast and diverse experience that our faculty bring to the table. I encourage them to reach out to me anytime with feedback on a certain class that they're teaching or ideas that they might have for improvement. For example, they might be able to say, well, I've seen this particular type of assignment, used in a course at another institution and it worked really well. Or, maybe my current employer started to use this approach or this new technology. So maybe we could integrate that somehow. And, that's certainly not to say that we can incorporate every single idea, that might be brought to us, but it offers great perspective and we can absolutely incorporate some ideas. And regardless of whether we, implement every idea or not, we let faculty know that their feedback is heard and it's valued. So now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Yolanda Harper.
Thank you, Brandy. I certainly concur with Brandy's comments. In fact, even as we were meeting in advance of this day, we found that our experiences were very similar in many ways. I will say that supporting the well-being and work-life balance of all faculty, especially those teaching across multiple institutions, requires flexibility. In addition, researchers such as Blankinship 2022 and Hofman et al. 2024 highlight the importance of fair compensation, job security, and intentional inclusion. In fact, strategies to promote well-being fall basically into two categories: financial security and flexible engagement. And while compensation decisions are not in my control, I can make faculty aware of opportunities that arise that provide additional stipends such as committee service. Providing resources to help them be successful and achieve preferred status is also very useful, as well as allow for flexible engagement. Offering professional development in multiple formats, maintaining accessible online resources, etc., and certainly personalized and relevant, as Brandy mentioned, communication. Relevance to the communication is key. Is this really useful? Is it really relevant to what they need to do their jobs and to be successful? So bombarding, like Brandy said, with emails, while intended to be proactive, unintentionally becomes junk mail and important messages can get lost. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Harper, and thank you, Professor Havens. Everybody, I want you to know that we depend heavily upon our associate faculty. And here's one of the ways that we actually depend upon them. Their feedback sometimes includes from their professions so far as working at major corporations and other companies across the United States. And so they are able to give us information normally that we would not have access to, and to tell us what's the latest trend happening in their industry. That's really wonderful for us. And so we get those updates, throughout the year from them. And so we enjoy them and their efforts in helping us to stay up to date. So I want to have our audience members take another poll, and as we prepare to discuss the part-time faculty perspective. So let's pause for a moment for our next poll. The question is, what qualities do you think are most important in interactions between program leaders and adjunct faculty? Approachability and respect, transparency and communication, constructive and timely feedback, shared commitment to student success, and/or collaboration and inclusion. So let's go ahead and log our polls in. I see the responses are coming in very fast. Okay, so 63% of our respondents said approachability and respect. And boy, that respect factor is really something that you have to interpret and make sure that we all understand what that is. Transparency and communication. And you'll hear about that politically, you'll hear about that in organizations, that transparency factor that even though it only scored 13%, when it's not happening, it may be 100%. Constructive and timely feedback. 38% of our respondents said constructive and timely feedback. 50% of our respondents said share commitment to student success. That's our lifeblood right there. We are nothing without our students being successful. We want to see them be able to graduate and be able to graduate as soon as possible. That means being successful in each and every course in their program. And then collaboration and inclusion, which is at 50%. So collaboration and inclusion, boy, you talk about iron sharpening iron, us making each other better. That is wonderful because we each have our strengths. And as we look at our strengths, we don't have to be strong at everything, but we know people who are strong at things that we're not as strong at. And so that's wonderful to have that. Okay, everybody,
Yep.
we're going to get into our third question at this point, and we'll start off with Dr. Harper, and then followed up by Dr. Haskett. So, what insights have you gained from part-time faculty about the kinds of engagement and support they find most meaningful?
Thank you, Dr. Woods. First, I just want to say that I acknowledge all of my faculty are individuals, each with unique personalities, needs, and wants, and there is not a one-size-fits-all model for how they want to be engaged. Some value engagement strategies centering on fostering a sense of belonging, recognition, accessible support systems, opportunities to connect with faculty colleagues, opportunities to volunteer or serve on committees. Others feel that it's enough that they're highly engaged with our students. So at the same time, I do want to mention that I learned about several very thoughtful engagement strategies, and I'll share the link after I finish talking, from Assistant Professor Kimberly Luke, who has been full-time with UAGC for some time, and Assistant Professor Harper Frank, who joined us full-time this past January after working as a highly engaged adjunct professor in another department. And part of what they shared is based on a qualitative study of adjunct faculty, but also on personal experience as an adjunct for Professor Frank. Key recommendations include recognition and respect of work skills and expertise, increased opportunities, such as increased course offerings, which feeds back into my earlier comments about financial stability, guaranteed classes, research and professional development opportunities, also demonstrate that they are valued and respected. Opportunities for collegial dialogue. When possible, offering multiple meeting times, varying the days and times, recording meetings, and making sure they're easily available for those who cannot attend. Using asynchronous platforms to engage faculty outside of the classroom setting. Making sure, as we mentioned several times, that information is easily accessible and also just in time. So throwing a bunch of information and resources at a time they don't need them is not helpful. But how can we strategically send information just in time when it's needed? In addition, I will mention that I serve on the committee here at UAGC that recently revised our standard instructional expectations and the instructional quality review documents. And we were very intentional on engaging adjunct faculty in voting on the documents and providing input that led to the revision of these documents. And we have received feedback that this was much appreciated and doesn't happen at many other institutions where they work. Earlier this summer, we talk about engaging the faculty that just are in our programs, but earlier this summer I participated in an in-person meetup organized by Dr. Handy, which consisted of 2 full-time faculty, Dr. Handy and myself, a full-time staff member, and 4 adjunct faculty. All of us live kind of within a 70-mile radius of each other. We met for dinner at a restaurant. We talked for hours. And while none of these faculty actually teach in my program, by meeting them and learning about their expertise, I was able to connect one with another program chair of a program that was actually better aligned with this instructor's education and expertise than where they were previously aligned. And we all already our group is already scheduled to have a December meetup to put together hygiene bags to donate to a local nonprofit organization. And additional faculty who were not able to attend the summer have RSVP'd that they will attend in December. So this also fosters the community, the collegial communication that, again, may not directly seem to impact my program, but we're all one university. If I can be supportive of a faculty member anywhere within a university, then I feel like we're all supporting one another. And then the last thing I'll mention is that regardless of what strategies we employ, supportive leadership is key to helping adjuncts, all faculty really, feel connected and valued. So thank you.
Well, that is really a caring culture where you and the faculty will get together within a 70-mile radius to interact with one another. That really makes people feel that they are a part of something special. So thank you for sharing that. All right. Dr. Haskett?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Harper. The whole time I've heard this before as we prepared some of it anyway, but the whole time I was thinking what's coming together here is creating a sense of belonging, right? The faculty, the associate faculty that we have, if they feel they are connected in some way, and they are, or should feel that they're connected, and they're not a satellite or just someone who's kind of connected to the organization and the mission of UAGC, then there's appropriate behavioral responses in terms of their instruction and the way that they approach things. They feel that they're a part of the team because they are, and we and the students benefit from that. And so that's terrific. Sense of belonging is a narrative theme throughout everything we've talked about in the last couple questions. And what are the products of that? And so we get to attract and retain quality associate faculty. If they hear, hey, there's a team environment over here at UAGC, they have something special. I just don't feel like I'm show up, get my course assignment, go through the course, and then wait for my check to show up. But they actually feel like they are engaged in this process of building their instructional quality and competencies through the dynamic tools that you and that committee created. And just the way that we approach asking them, what's best for you? What do you need? What's timely and relevant? I will note that something that I failed to mention in that LMS system that we embed in that LMS system, we have a discussion post for each and every associate faculty. And again, back to this idea of building that sense of belonging. When they feel like they're part of the team and these are peers, and we approach them in that way, then it makes for a better cohort of faculty members. Now on to answering the question, because I'm off my soapbox there, but I just thought it was terrific, Dr. Harper. What I think we've learned is that flexibility is key. That's it. We have to be flexible in the way that we engage associate faculty, right? Our faculty have incredibly full schedules. We said that. And so again, that adoption of asynchronous and synchronous opportunities for engagement is critical. And so while we would, and this is an example of that, while we would host a scheduled asynchronous like live opportunity, a live session for them to come to a faculty meeting, we also record it. And we host it internally in that in that LMS system, and so they're able to go on and see the video. and then interact with us and say, hey, I learned something great from that, or, I have a question about this, and then we can exchange in that discussion post about the video that we posted for that session. And so again, from their feedback, we've learned that they value engagement that's immediately practical and relevant. And I think you shared that, Dr. Harper. And we're talking especially around timely or contemporary student challenges. What we've noticed is that, our associate faculty, they want the how-to in terms of how to approach this discussion post or this final assignment. But what we're noticing is the contemporary issues that they're bringing to the fore are things like, how do they navigate this AI thing in terms of grading, right? How do they handle difficult student interactions? We can't wait for, a performance feedback opportunity or the next monthly meeting to deal with that particular issue because the associate faculty are dealing with it right then. So again, back to this idea of having this open door, I hate using that, but having the understanding that they can reach out to us at any time. And in fact, at least what we do is our program chair has a standing office hours, and they can sign up to come to that office hours and ask those timely questions. We also make sure that we monitor the discussion posts to ensure that if they have questions around, again, these timely issues like, AI or, student interaction, that we're able to tackle those and make sure that they understand how to proceed with those. And so these conversations that we have around what's important to them, they tailor our support and what truly matters most to them, right? And so we want to make sure that we're tackling things and we're providing, again, things that are immediately practical and relevant. So.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Haskett and Dr. Harper. There's a benefit that our faculty council has, and that's that some of the elected council members are actually our adjunct faculty. And, our adjunct faculty can have their hand on the pulse of what's happening with other adjunct faculty because they're directly representing them, and through their contact with them, they can bring forth, certain issues to the faculty council to be addressed by the rest of the faculty council. And so it's neat being able to have those adjunct faculty in the faculty council. And I used to be one of the chairs for the faculty council, so it was a delight to hear from them, knowing that they are part of our culture here and that we rely so heavily upon them. I'm going to move on now, and I'm going to get into another poll. In a moment, we're going to explore some obstacles and opportunities in faculty engagement. But before we do, here comes poll number 4. In which areas would you like to see more collaboration between program leaders and adjunct faculty? Co-teaching or content development, research and publication support, conference presentations or workshops, mentoring new instructors, or something else that you could add in there. All right, here we go. Launch. Wow, here's a great response. It had 100%. Uh-oh, it just went down to 86%. I'll hold off for a second here. Replies are still coming in. Okay, I think we're there now. So co-teaching or content development. And I will say that on some courses that I've worked on developing, I did use associate faculty because we had faculty who were experts in finance. And so I know about finance, but they were experts in it. And so it was great to do that content development with them. Next one is conference presentations or workshops. And that's coming in at 25% of respondents saying that. And that is a wonderful opportunity to go to conferences with associate faculty and then to present with them. I've had an opportunity to do that. And then the last one, at 50% of our respondents are mentoring new instructors. Um, when we think about our new instructors, being able to have them uh, under our mentorship, that's vitally important, because one of the things is we're going to use our people skills, and we're going to work with them not because they're in trouble, but we're going to work with them to make them just that much better. And when we help make someone else better, we're actually helping make ourselves better also, because the interactions, we learn from those interactions. So that's wonderful. All right. So I'm going to get into our fifth question. What strategies have you tried that have not resulted in the type of engagement or learning you expected or hoped for? Now, this is something where we're going to get deep into it, because we have to say, what happened? Did we set it up right? Did we miss the mark? Was it on us, or was it just not the right timing for it? I don't know. So let's take a look at that, and let's have everybody get involved in on this one.
I'll be glad to start. I can share some things from my perspective. I can tell you for my department, I know that this approach has worked well for some departments, but for my department, we've tried holding some live meetings on Zoom, either with a specific agenda or just as open office hours. We haven't had a whole lot of interest or turnout with those. Again, I think it kind of goes back to time constraints. Part-time faculty tend to have a lot of outside commitments and limited time. So oftentimes if something's, optional or outside the scope of their contract, they may not be inclined to participate in that. Another technique that hasn't worked especially well, at least for my department, would be surveys. I tried doing a pretty detailed pulse survey. It was a couple of years ago to get some feedback from our faculty, and I think our response rate was about 3%, and no one offered any additional comments, or feedbacks in the comment boxes, that able to get just a whole lot of meaningful information from the survey. And again, I don't think it's personal. I think that our faculty have to manage and guard their time very carefully. And so I think as program leaders, we have to acknowledge that and also be respectful of it as much as possible. We have to try to meet them where they are or where they want to be, not necessarily where we are, I guess, if that makes sense.
That makes great sense. Okay, how about you other two?
Well, I'll just say that in applied behavior sciences, similar to Brandy's experience, offering in-person meetings during business hours has not been highly successful, but I'm going to keep revisiting the challenge and seek to find that sweet spot that Breon and Stephanie have found. Certainly, according to the literature, again, applying a one-size-fits-all approach to engagement that overlooks the diverse needs of adjuncts, including those teaching at multiple institutions, is not very helpful, but certainly sustained engagement, it just requires us to continue to make efforts to demonstrate that respect, show that value, that how much we appreciate them. But in terms of challenges, finding that sweet spot for meetings is still out there for me.
Yeah, I will say that we are very proud of the fact that we get a third of our associate faculty to our live meetings, and then we're able to see when our faculty have viewed the videos and how many times they viewed the videos. And so we estimate that although we're only getting about a third, which sounds like it's pretty good that we're getting a third, the vast majority of our associate faculty are actually watching the video, and which is terrific. We want that type of interaction. Again, back to this whole concept of building a sense of belonging. I will note, and this is definitely kind of an anecdotal piece, is that we have a well-steeped cohort of associate faculty, meaning they've been with us for a long time. And if we're building this sense of belonging, it's all, based upon that kind of relational trust. I don't know if that makes sense. And so they want to they built a trust over time with us, I think. Again, can't prove that at alignment with the scholarship that you've offered, Dr. Harper, but I will say that they trust us in terms of that when if they do show up, there's going to be a value add both in terms of their instruction, but also in what we're going to offer them, just institutionally and the content that we're giving them. And we go to great lengths to maintain those relationships. And so we spend an inordinate amount of time figuring out how to balance that asynchronous and synchronous piece. And we give them a myriad of opportunities to interact again with content in a timely way. But we also spend a lot of time on ensuring that they feel heard and feel like that they are a part of our team. And so I think if I was to align our success with anything, it's just our associate faculty, again, have been with us for a long time, and we've been able to prove that what we're offering is a great product and that their voices are valued, and we take their input very seriously, and we offer them opportunities to grow with us. So.
All right, Professor Havens.
She already went.
Yeah, I went first.
Yeah, I was just assuring that for sure you were heard.
Thank you, Dr. Woods. I appreciate that.
Okay, so I'm going to chime in a little bit here. One of the things that we talked about earlier in this presentation was IQRs, instructor quality reviews, and you can handle those in a great way or you can handle those in a poor way. And when you're handling those in a poor way and giving feedback back to our adjunct faculty, it may cut down on their want for interaction with us. And so we have to be careful with how we word things and the encouragement that we give. So even if they aren't doing well, we have to figure out how do we encourage them to do better. And so that instructional quality review is vitally important so far as engagement with them. And so just wanted to say that to our audience. Okay, we're gonna have one last question.
We just one thing that came to mind before we move on to it is that we've discussed a lot of touch points, right? So we have kind of this performance piece in the IQR. We have an onboarding process. We have these interactive things that we do with our faculty, but everyone is important. Like, look at it as a collective feature, right? So we're trying to get to that place of belonging and that relational trust with each one of our associate faculty members, but each one of those is critically important. And so we have to be as excited and immersed in when we're onboarding a faculty member as we are when we are giving them feedback about their last fiscal year, IQR results. Those relationships that we build at the beginning, they matter. And then along the way, we try to cultivate those relationships so that when we do, if you ever get to a associate faculty cohort and you've had people for 5 or 10 years, the average associate faculty member, again, they know you in a significant way. As the peers that are aligned with a particular program, and they know that you're going to offer one value, but also that you respect and enjoy that they are in your program. And so all of that has to be across all of the touch points. It has to be that you built a relationship with them and looking for ways to sustain those relationships as those touch points happen. So
that's very good. Dr. Haskett was using the term relationships. And one of the things that we have to be cognizant of is you can have good relationships or you can have bad relationships. But when you get to the point where you start to refer to each other as friends, and that means something. And I can personally testify to the fact that a lot of our associate faculty have become friends with one another, and they have become friends with us because they've been working here for quite a while, and that's been highly beneficial. So let's finish off with one last question. What are some ways that program leaders can better support part-time faculty when there are student conflicts? And that conflict can be with the faculty member or it can be with other students.
I'll start again.
All right,
You
Professor
know,
Havens.
I think I can tell you most of what, I encounter, and I don't encounter it just a whole lot, but sometimes there will be, a conflict between a faculty member, and a student. And, I think at the end of the day, we want to be as supportive as possible. It's helpful if there's, like a clear policy or procedure that we can refer back to, especially if it's something related to like enforcing the late policy or, academic integrity concerns or something like that. That's kind of the easy stuff. But, I think as we know, a lot of times the conflicts fall into those gray areas where it doesn't necessarily involve a policy or procedure. For example, it could just be kind of a personality conflict. As a reminder to some of our attendees, I'm in accounting, and I can tell you that accountants tend to be notoriously short and direct in their communications. We're not always full of personality, I'm kind of full of personality, but most accountants aren't, And so I think sometimes, when communications are really short and direct, sometimes the students might kind of misinterpret that in that, the instructor's being rude to me or the instructor's being mean to me, and the instructor may not mean it that way at all, And so I think in situations like that, I don't know that there's an easy answer, but again, I think it kind of all goes back to, the culture of care. We treat our students with a culture of care, and we want to treat our faculty with a culture of care, too. And so sometimes just, kind of encouraging instructors to just take just an extra moment, just like a few seconds to proofread messages before you send them. We know that tone doesn't always come across very well in emails. We've known that for decades, and so sometimes just taking that extra minute to think about how the person on the other end might interpret what you're saying. And sometimes it can be like a really easy fix, whether it's just, you end it in a smiley face, or, you end it with something like, I'm here to support you, or if you need anything else, let me know, so I mean, like literally it just takes a couple of seconds to put that in there, but it can completely change, how the person on the other end of the message views and receives your message. And so with that being said, I try to keep that in mind when I'm responding to both, student and faculty emails. So I guess, I'm trying to model a best practice in that area, but that's something that I encourage with instructors too. And that can at least cut down on some of just the miscommunication and misunderstanding.
Terrific. Yeah, Brandy, what I heard was leading with empathy and informed compassion, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So we, and again, I haven't had many of those opportunities either. Maybe we've just been lucky. We just haven't had a lot of, challenging interactions between professors and students. Nevertheless, I would say that a great practice, you have to begin with a space of shared meaning. And so we might begin with, what's the rule on this thing, right? What's the relevant guidance of associated with this particular issue, and make sure the associate faculty is aware of that. And then from there, we move to the informed compassion, right? Is it a issue of personalities? Where do we go from there? I think, again, similar to what we talked about with that building of relationship, I think that if they feel heard prior to these challenges presenting, then they feel like they can come to you with this issue, and that you will listen to them so that you can move to that space of informed compassion and true empathy, right? Because I will say that associate faculty, because of what they are dealing with, mostly they have full-time careers, plus they're put in 15 to 20 hours a week with their instructional work. There's a level of frustration sometimes that can kind of overtake them sometimes, and most of the time they just want to hear someone who's going to lead with empathy, and and hear them out on a particular case. And oftentimes that allows us to get to a space where we can come to a offer them an approach that may help them separate the emotions or their frustration out of a particular student that may be a little outside of the bounds in terms of decorum or something of that nature. And so again, haven't dealt with it very often, but I think I see it all as a package deal. The more we build these relationships with our associate faculty, the easier it is to, one, get to the bottom of challenges such as these, but also get to a space of shared meaning on how we're going to move forward and tackle the challenge. So that's
All right, everybody. I'd like to say that the audience members that are sitting right behind Dr. Sadajinajad are getting restless, so that's our cue that we have to wrap this up. I want to thank you all for being here today and adding to this presentation, and we hope that you really have benefited from that. We benefit from you, so thumbs up. Dr. Sadajinajad.
Thank you very much, Dr. Woods, and the panelists, and of course the audience for your participation in today's session. Please use the survey linked in the chat to nominate TLC presentations for conference awards, and also share your feedback on this presentation. Thanks again, and hope to see you in another session.